morning, Malacañang Press Corps. Welcome sa Mindanao R, led by Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella.
Good morning. The Joint Task Force Marawi updates on the rebellion in Marawi as of 8 p.m. 18th of June 2017. Progress on the ground continues to be positive, although action is carefully calibrated. Civilians killed by terrorists, 26. Civilians rescued by government troops, LGUs and CSOs, 1,637, or an increase of 1. Government casualties, recovered firearms by government troops, 250. Terrorists killed, 257. Government casualties killed in action, 62. The focus of military operations remains to be the continued clearing of Marawi of remaining armed terrorists that continue to pose pockets of resistance to the advancing troops. Also, the continued rescue of trapped residents to include those held hostages. Also, the continued recovery of civilian casualties or cadavers of victims. Also, to assist the LGU, CSOs, NGOs on relief operations. Also, to prepare to assist government LGUs with the rehabilitation, reconstruction, and rebuilding phase as soon as the rebellion is quelled. Significant developments. 11 kilos of suspected methamphetamine hydrochloride or shabu placed inside 11 packs were recovered by troops after a brief firefight between them and black-clad Maute members at 6 p.m. 18th of June 2017 in Marawi. Note, troops have recovered sachets of shabu and paraphernalia at formerly Maute Daesh/ISIS occupied positions in many instances during the clearing operations. 2. Maute members nabbed aboard inter-island vessel during stopover by Philippine Coast Guard in Iloilo. Details to follow. 3. Recovery and control of strategic vantage points by advancing troops continue to mount. For example, tall buildings, key structures in the built-up areas. 4. Enemy resistance continues to wane and enemy-held areas continue to diminish as government security forces press its advance. 5. Troops continue to get deeper into once enemy-held positions as evidenced by the recovery of cadavers of terrorists and their firearms, computers and peripherals, as well as communications equipment and accessories. 6. Continuing engagements and dialogues with key sectors and local and religious leaders of Marawi in preparation for the rebuilding of the rehab phase. 7. Clearing operations continue to yield positive results. Out of 96 barangays, only portions of 4 barangays remain as problematic areas and where focused military operations in urban terrain is ongoing. Constraints and limitations. The continued use of snipers, IEDs, and RPGs from remaining vantage point positions still remain to be a challenge. 2. Terrorists' use of non-combatant civilians as shields and situating themselves in mosques. General Año, the Chief of Staff of AFP, reiterates that the AFP is prepared to embark on other key tasks such as rehab and reconstruction of Marawi. It has already prepared the combat engineering brigades from the Army and the Navy for immediate deployment as soon as the clearing operations are complete. In the meantime, focus remains on combat, intelligence, and civil military operations. Task Force Ranao just been activated is in full swing in ensuring that efforts to save lives of innocent, non-combatant civilians remain a primary specific task to be complied with. It likewise takes charge in the collating and in the distribution of relief goods to evacuees in tandem with the LGUs. In this connection and in response to the people expressing their desire to help internally displaced persons or evacuees, and the families of our troops killed in action during the rebellion in Marawi, special accounts were opened by the AFP in the Land Bank of the Philippines for these purposes. If you wish to donate, for the families of our soldiers killed in action, account name AFP Marawi Casualty, account number 0000552107128. This is for the families of our soldiers killed in action. If you wish to donate for the evacuees from Marawi City, the bank is Land Bank. The account name Marawi IDP for internally displaced persons, and the account number is 0000552107136. For purposes of transparency, the AFP will be posting the amount of donations and disbursements. Donors may call or text LCDR Rose Abud at mobile number +63 928 264 3337. Let me repeat that. +63 928 264 3337 to inform the AFP of such deposits made, the branch, the date, time, and account. She will maintain the records of donations and disbursements. The AFP remains committed to the decisive resolution of this rebellion to ensure that the Maute, Daesh, ISIS terrorist rebels will not be able to pose a threat in any part of the Philippines, and the support and active participation of LGUs and the citizens will play a key role in ensuring that terrorism shall not thrive in this part of Asia. One last. On the NPA raid in the Iloilo police station. It's unfortunate that the NPA raid of a police station in Iloilo happened on the same day the government reciprocated the National Democratic Front's declaration to refrain from undertaking offensive operations in Mindanao. Although the attack was not in Mindanao, the act was opportunistic in nature and disregards the nature of the NDF declaration. We ask the NDF to call on their armed comrades on the ground to walk the talk and to show genuine sincerity on the confidence-building measure initiated by the government and their side. Part of the statement released by Presidential Peace Advisor Jess Dureza regarding the recent attacks, the last paragraph says, the impact is not just on the peace negotiations, it illustrates the tragedy of the insurgency. Hopefully, the attack is just part of the birth pains of the agreement to stop offensive military actions, even if it covers only Mindanao as of now. It is an argument for a nationwide ceasefire. End of statement. We defer to General Padilla, please.
Good morning, members of the Malacañang Press Corps and all others monitoring. As was already announced, one significant development from Joint Task Force Marawi AOR was the discovery of 11 kilos of high-grade or first-grade shabu. The presentation of these items that were taken from clearing operations in a certain part of Marawi, name I cannot disclose, will be done at about 12:30 to 1 o'clock this afternoon at the headquarters of Joint Task Force Marawi in Marawi itself. And the elements who were involved in the clearing operations that led to the discovery of this sizable amount of illegal substance will be present to answer questions from the media regarding the nature of their operation. So may I give that advisory to all our friends from the media who are there and who may be able to facilitate their connection to have their people cover that for a complete background of the clearing operations yesterday that led to this discovery. And last weekend, we didn't have any update report, and you may have other figures discovered or passed on to you. But we would just like to highlight that last Saturday, our troops on Ground Zero were able to seize a sizable arms cache from the area of operation, and the number of firearms numbering more than 20, if I recall. And these are not ordinary firearms, but high powered firearms. Last week, during the visit of the Secretary of National Defense and the National Security Advisor, plus other members of the cabinet, the firearms were presented to them. And may I request look at those pictures. So you may not be aware of the nature of the confiscated firearms. These are among the firearms that have been confiscated, and they are not ordinary firearms at all, but high-powered firearms that can fire from afar, hit targets, and destroy them. And this is indicative of the length of planning that went to this operation of these rebels when they were able to get this number of firearms and bring it to the area of operations over a period of time. Besides this, other war materials that have been confiscated are IEDs and other explosives that the amount of which are also significantly high. They are also using combustible materials like fuel or gasoline to burn many of the areas that they leave behind when government forces captured these areas where they have been staying. To date also, as we continue to get the vantage points that have been held by these terrorists, the discovery or the recovery of cadavers beside firearms and arms caches and equipment are ongoing. And this is why the high number of confirmed enemy killed continues to grow because of this continued discovery. I am now open to answer any questions you may have.
MPC, Maricel Halili, TV5.
Hi, sir. Good morning. Sir, just a clarification on the arrested members of Maute Group during the weekend. Meron po kasing report sa sinasabi na kapatid daw ng Maute Brothers yung babae na na-arrest. Pero may reports clarifying na hindi. So ano po ba talaga yung connection?
We have already sought clarification and we have not received the answer yet. That's why I did not take it up in the significant development. The identity or exact relationship is still being established, and until such time that we don't get the categorical answer from the field, we could not include it in the report.
Pero ano po yung circumstances when the 3 individuals were arrested? I understand at near Iloilo Port.
Well, they left port and boarded based on the report in Cagayan de Oro, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere in the area of Iligan. And the advisory was sent by the Coast Guard having seen them boarding, and it was then forwarded to the next port so that they could prepare and effect an arrest of the said individuals, and that was how it was made. This is in line with our effort to continue to guard the nearby cities of potential fleeing members of the group who may have gone through earlier in the cordon sanitaire that we have established. So this is just to ensure that many of those who may have gone through these checkpoints earlier during the first week of fighting do not hide in other areas out of Mindanao.
So as of now, sir, hindi pa malinaw kung
Wala
anong participation
pa. We'll wait
nila.
for that final report before we can fully say the relationship.
Sir, panghuli na lang po on my part. What are the chances na nakarating na rin doon sa may Iloilo area or sa Visayas area yung ilang members ng Maute?
Kaya nga po binabantayan natin yung mga port. So, ito pa lang yung unang pagkakataon na may ganito tayong report. And based on the initial monitoring, there was nothing similar to this previously.
Okay, Hannah Sancho.
Morning, Sir. Hannah Sancho, kaya sa Manay. Sir, itatanong ko lang po, sir. May news report na kinote ang Pangulo na nagsusupply po ng firearms ng MILF at MNLF sa Maute Group.
Itong mga firearms na mga ring nandyan ngayon sa loob ng Marawi, potentially noong araw pa at matagal ng panahon, some of the members of the Maute Group may have relatives in other groups or armed groups. There are so many armed groups in Mindanao that could potentially be a source of firearm for this group. And that is why there needs to be an effort to get all these loose firearms that are held by private armed groups and other illegal armed groups that are operating, such as this terrorist group. And this is a cause for concern that has been there since a long time ago and has been addressed many times over but unsuccessfully. And we hope that during this period of martial law, we can successfully cover this and get rid or confiscate all these loose firearms that are there.
Yusek Abella, dun sa statement po ng Pangulo, maapektuhan po ba yung peace process natin sa MILF, MNLF?
Statement ng alin?
Na-mention, dun sa news report na sinasabi po kasi na yung MILF and MNLF nagsusupply ng mga firearms. Kaya nag-imbak yung Maute Group sa Marawi po ng mga firearms. Dahil daw dun sa peace process, kaya soft daw yung government. So, with this na statement po, ano pong strategy ng Pangulo ng pamahalaan na ongoing po yung peace process natin kung ipagpapatuloy pa rin po nila yung pagbebenta, pagsusupply po ng firearms sa mga rebel groups sa Mindanao po?
I think it was clarified by General Padilla that this was in the past. No, this is
Yes, sir.
It's not a current thing that's happening. Okay, so it will not affect the peace talks. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Pia Reñada.
For General Padilla, sir, on Saturday, the President was saying that he was threatening that if he had to declare martial law again after the Supreme Court decides to lift it, then it could be a copycat of Marcos. He was talking about a second martial law regime. But the military has always been saying that there would be no human rights abuses for this martial law, that it's very different from the time of Marcos. But then we have the President threatening again that it would be similar to Marcos' time. What does the military think of these kinds of statements?
Well, definitely, the President will not be referring to abuses. He may refer to the breadth and the depth of how to impose it, but I guess it's not because of the abuses. You can see how the military is implementing martial law now. It's complete regard for human rights and IHL and the other protocols that have been established. So if there are any complaints, we're open to receiving those complaints and acting on it immediately. And that is also one of the instructions of the President previously that you also may have heard, that he must ensure we are able to protect and save lives. After all, in the pronouncement and declaration of martial law, di ba sinabi niya, if you are a law-abiding citizen and you're a peace-loving citizen, martial law is not a problem that you should worry about, because martial law is intended for the lawless elements and the rebels that are around. So wasn't that clear enough? And the AFP will always guarantee the safety of each citizen who are doing the right things and not the wrong things and not breaking the law.
So, sir, you heard it specifically from the President that he gave instructions or statements to the military saying that when he threatened yung copycat of martial law, he actually meant the breadth and depth. That's what he meant. He explained this to the military specifically?
No, he did not. That's why, the nature of the question and answer that transpired in Butuan was of an extent that nagkakabiruan na eh. Remember when he was asked, sabi nyo, nakakoma ako. Pero nagkamali yata kayo sa spelling dahil ang totoo, nasa kama lang ako, nakahiga. So, the nature of the exchange between the media and the President was light enough that shouldn't be reflected or translated otherwise. So by that nature alone, alam mo, yung banter was light. So he could not have meant that.